Elisabeth, welcome to Leadership Disrupted.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for having me.
Now, we first met in Singapore a couple of years ago, and you were just at the outset of taking Siemens Healthineers on a new journey of change. And you explained to me at the time that this is probably one of the world's oldest technology companies that has always prided itself on excellent product. And I know Siemens' product has always been a premium product in everything that they've done. But you were saying that that's now not enough, and there was a need to take the company on a journey that was much more customer focused than product focused. So 2 years into that, how is that playing out?
I mean, it's a very interesting and also rewarding journey. I mean, we're in Siemens Healthineers, we're a company which is really driven by innovation. So it's not about giving up the excellence in the product, but it's about being relevant. And if we look at what our customers who are healthcare providers around the world, what they're grappling with, it's a humongous challenge they need to solve, because they have huge cost pressure. There is this expectation to do more and to deliver better outcomes at less cost. There is medicine becoming more precise, so there's a lot more opportunities to do things even better and to use new technologies, new ways of doing things, being very personalized. At the same time, you're not allowed to make this more expensive. And you're also expected to embrace digitalization and bring all the benefits of digitalization to your patients. And if this is what your customers are struggling with, we are convinced that also we as a company need to be able to engage in such a conversation. And just speaking about product features will just not resonate. So we are convinced and deeply convinced that we need to start from the customer and then think backwards, and start from what's important to them. And this requires this customer focus and customer centricity we've put on our agenda, where we say we want to enable healthcare providers to deliver value by improving outcomes for patients and at the same time managing or reducing costs.
I suppose for the people who are watching this who don't know Siemens Healthineers, you make the big technology equipment that's in hospitals. Would that be a reasonable summary?
Well, there is anything which creates an image in a hospital in a way. So it's ultrasound, it's CT scanners, MRI scanners, X-ray. So that's one area. A second space is therapy. So for instance, if you need a stent and the technology to support the physician to do this well, or if you are unlucky to suffer a stroke, that would be equipment which would help to guide the physician to, for instance, remove a clot. And then there is another very important element in what we do, and this is blood testing. So any sort of blood test, urine test, all of us have experienced that many times, and the likelihood is quite high that some of these tests at least were run on Siemens Healthineers equipment.
So this is fascinating. We've been talking about the technology that Siemens produces, and we've been talking about the need for a greater level of customer centricity. Was there a moment when you needed to start thinking of the customer more than the technology? And is there an acceleration of that change? What was the inflection point?
I mean, one element which is really also driving this change is the fact that the decision making, the person who decides about what to buy, that the place in the organization is changing. So traditionally, it would be the physicians using an equipment, so really the direct users who would be allowed to decide which kind of equipment they want to use. And in order to convince these people, you have to be very detailed and very expert type of person to understand what they do and how they work. And at the same time, you can work a lot with features. The decision making is moving up in the hierarchy, so to say, in a hospital. And as you engage with someone who is running a whole hospital, or in many cases, even a number of hospitals or a healthcare system, these people, they don't care so much about the details of the rotational speed of a CT, for instance. They want to understand how does it help them to fulfill their mission. And for us then to connect to this group of people, we have to understand how what we contribute helps them. And this is where this customer focus and centricity comes into it.
So I mean, it's great to talk about customer focus and centricity from a theoretical standpoint. Practically, how do you move? How do you change the direction of the big tanker and make that real?
I mean, the analogy we use to help us guide our thinking is that we say we want to climb the customer ladder. So we want to move from being a product vendor to someone who's a truly trusted partner of a customer. And if you now envision becoming a trusted partner of the people you work with and you sell to, then it really guides your thinking as to, okay, maybe I need different types of skills, maybe I have to train my people in a different way. And one core element which comes into play in this is developing much more profound skills in key account management. It also comes with the way how you organize the sales team, for instance, where we used to have a very territory-based approach, and which we completely left behind and said we go by customer segments. And we try to create specialists who understand customer segments, who then work with these customers to meet their needs and expectations. So those are two more on the sales-facing end, but this is not good enough. You know, if you really want to transform an organization to think customer-centric, you need, of course, to work with the salespeople. You have to build capabilities around key account management. You need to train people how to think of in solutions and not in features. But then you need the whole organization to come along. You have to think, for instance, when you think about how do I tell my story, how do I market the contribution I make? This is something where also, again, you have to start from the customer. And this is becoming even more pronounced now with the ability of digitalization. Because in digitalization, with the digital marketing capabilities and the user experience, all of us, we are used to getting what we want when we want it. And we expect to find this information fast. And if you now envision a very traditional sales approach, so it would be a company decides what information would be relevant, you put it into a brochure, you print it, you distribute it, and then you hope it was the right thing people were looking for. Yeah. And this approach is something which is just not what will work anymore going forward. And you have to think of, again, starting from the customer, how can we make sure that a customer finds the information which is relevant at this point in time at their fingertips. And for this, you have to make it available in an easy way. You have to make it relevant. You have to make it very personalized. And this totally transforms what the marketing department does.
Elisabeth, I want to put you on the spot here, though. You're talking about wholesale, that we can put in place a business plan on paper and say this is where we want to go. But as a leader, you need to take your people on that journey. And we know that is not easy. And you have multiple territories across multiple cultures right across Asia Pacific. You're based in China, I know. Just in a short form, can you tell me what's your biggest leadership learning over the last 2 years during this journey?
It's really about taking the people on this journey, and it's about enabling people to actually live up to this expectation we have for them. It's about the skills we provide them with. It's about also the digital tools and the content also we have to provide to the people. And there is maybe an additional element which I believe is very important. And that's not just the skills and the techniques and how you cut the territories and who takes care of what. There's also this element of having a language and a joint culture, where we say we want to define our approach in a common language around which we can unite. And we have defined business principles for Siemens Healthineers. And principles which help us in this context are, for instance, one of them is we listen more than we talk. And if you think this in a customer situation, it automatically creates a mindset where you go in, it's not I need to offload the things I believe you need to know, but I go into a conversation with the mindset, I want to understand what is on your mind. And then I see how I can connect to what is important to you and how I can make a difference and help you to get to where you need. So this is one, for instance, one of the principles we use, and to bring it to life, we also quote it a lot internally, and it's really something which becomes part of a common language in the organization after a while.
That's fascinating. I've always seen that the greatest leaders create a common language throughout the organisation. So it's refreshing to hear you speak about that. I would like to look further around the cultural change that you've been making, but that's perhaps for the next interview. So thank you for your time today, Elisabeth.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's my pleasure.